I gotta clip my toenails, cuz.
I don't even know that shit, dog.
You ever put a toothpick to a burger bun? That's
Oh my Lord. Jesus. Ugh.
So, what will you wish for?
What is your heart's desire?
What does one do with 3 wishes?
You'll see.
Wait! Before we get started on this film that is on Amazon Prime right now for you to view, please hit that subscribe button right at the bottom. 3,000 Years of Longing stars Idris Elba and what's her name?
Tilda Swinton.
This film came out in August of 2022. It didn't make too much money at the box office. But you would think with these two stars in this, especially with Idris Elba, because he's always on a roll in the majority of his films, it would do very well.
This is right on par for Idris Elba. I've heard people describe Idris Elba as a superstar with no movie. And this is yet another Idris Elba movie where he does great. And yet his movies don't do well. For whatever reason, man, his movies just don't gel.
People are waiting for him to play Bond, and he's like, I'm not playing Bond ever.
Right. Yeah, man. He seems like he's too old now to play Bond.
But if you ever watch, wouldn't want to if he was young.
But if you go back and watch Luther, I can see why people wanted him to play Bond. Because wow, was he awesome in Luther, and he felt very much like a dirty, grimy, a little scary, intimidating James Bond. I could totally see him as Bond. But, that was back then. Nowadays, I think he's a little too old. But this movie is also a film adaptation of a book of short stories. And that's essentially what this movie is. It is like a series of short stories. The book was called The Djinn in the Nightingale's Eye. I had to look that up because I had never heard of it. So what makes this movie really notable, this is a George Miller film. This is his follow-up to Mad Max. So imagine making the crazy, wild, eccentric Mad Max and then making something like this. Where the bulk of this film is 2 people sitting in a room, telling stories back and forth. And it's also mostly flashbacks. So I think for a lot of people, this format is probably odd.
Tilda Swinton, she's like super lonely, and she likes to be lonely. She's very content with her life. She just loves stories.
She seems to be more like a professor or something like that. She said she tells stories about stories.
But it starts off where her and her partners in this, they're going to this antique shop. She runs across this jar, and she really is drawn to her, and she's like cleaning it up and stuff, and boom, pop out. It is the genie, played by Idris Elba. He just wanted his freedom,
Right. After Tilda Swinton finds the genie in the bottle, the genie tells her a bunch of stories.
I'm sorry.
And
I was thinking of
Christina Aguilera. Yeah. Exactly. It's interesting that when the genie comes out, all the genie wants to do is tell stories. How convenient. Because that's all she ever wants to hear are stories. And also the movie establishes that Tilda Swinton seems to, I don't want to say suffers, but she's got a very lively imagination. And when she was a kid, she had an invisible friend, and out of her fear of losing her invisible friend, she wrote down everything that they ever did, right? And this, I guess, led her to her career. And even before she gets in contact with the genie, a mysterious person in the airport tries to take her luggage, and then poof, he's gone. And then while she's giving a speech, she sees some sort of apparition in the crowd, and then poof, they're gone. And her reactions to seeing this seemingly supernatural things are strangely muted, right? You expect her to be like, why? But she's really not.
She's mostly freaking the heck out, especially with the dude in the theater, because he was just like, it's like nothing you're saying is impressing me.
Right. She does eventually pass out, but apparently this has happened to her before. So to me, this is telling me that maybe nothing we see in the movie is real. That maybe this is just her overactive imagination doing its thing. Now, she swears it's real, and she swears you won't believe her. But, you know, she literally is a storyteller. So I guess whether or not it's real or not isn't really important. But I kind of liked that the movie left things so open-ended. But the movie gives you a lot of contradictions to believe that maybe the genie is not here. But then it also gives you some things to say that maybe the genie is here, because she's got two racist, bigoted neighbors who actually saw him. So, like, maybe he was there. I don't know.
He'll be staying for a while.
Hello.
Hello.
He goes back and tells the story of Queen of Sheba and how he loved her and how she betrayed him with King Solomon. And King Solomon locked him up in a jar and threw him out to, which was a cold shot. I mean, that shot was cold. A hawk comes by like Assassin's Creed and get that daggone thing and flies like thousands of miles from the desert to the sea and drops it into the sea. I was like, that's cold.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, very like mystical storytelling type thing.
Yeah, it was very interesting on that shot.
But let's go back to just a touch, because I think there's one important thing that you hinted on, but we didn't quite get. And it's the reason why the genie's telling her these stories, right? And the reason why is because you said the exact right word. This is the one person that genie probably shouldn't be with, because she is very content. She is happy with her life. She is fine. She doesn't need anything. She desires nothing. And he's like, what the hell? How do I end up with the one person who's like, fine? She's like, she's good. She doesn't want or wish for anything.
Well, what if I made no wish at all?
Pardon?
And the genie's like, oh dear God, let me tell you why you need to say some wishes, please. You know, so I thought that was really interesting that these two people probably shouldn't be linked up. The genie who wants her to give some wishes, and the one human alive who has no wishes.
Don't need no daggone wishes.
Nope.
But I also see his point, because he's like, let me tell you about my second time. I guess the rules of Genie and Jinns is different, because I remember like Genie and Aladdin said, I can't make you fall in love. In the second story, the girl wanted that sultan, you know.
Well,
very badly.
the Aladdin movies by Disney, so they change whatever they want to change. You know,
True.
they don't go by any rules. All of his stories have one through line, and it's that every time he's trapped or ends up in a really bad spot, because all of his stories end bad, right? They usually end with him being trapped somewhere for a really long time. So, but the through line for all of them is every time he's trapped by a woman. And so I think the movie, especially looking at the title, this movie is actually about love, and he's more or less talking about his love life and how sometimes being in love can feel like a trap. Tilda Swinton, when she was talking about her ex-husband, she was like, when she got divorced, it felt like being free. It felt like, you know, it's like she was a prisoner and she's released into the light, you know. Both of these characters have had a very tough time with their love life. Of course, the genie's love life is dramatic and mystical, and of course it goes on for thousands and thousands of years, where hers is much more, I guess, mundane. But they both have the same problem, and it's that they've both been hurt in love.
Probably his third time being locked up. I think that was the worst one, because she was like an inventor.
He even said that he loved her, and he really didn't want her to give her third wish.
Yep. And then she's like, oh, you're betraying me. You want to keep me trapped like my husband was and stuff like that. And that one was like a dagger. That's a dagger to him. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, I love you. If you do the third wish, I will go away. I will be free. All those stories led up to, you know, her understanding that I need love. LL Cool J style.
Because this whole time she would not give a wish. This helped her figure out one wish.
That she wanted to be with him.
She wanted to be with him like romantically.
Romantically, yeah.
Good loving body, rockin', knockin' boots all night long.
This gets to, I think, the biggest problem with the film. While Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba are very good actors, I don't think they had any chemistry with one another. Like, I didn't really care whether or not they were together. And then when they got together, they felt more like an odd couple than
They
like,
sure did. Yeah.
than like a couple in love, you know? I actually kind of liked him with his other captors better.
Sheba was fine. God, man,
No
that
lies
dark
detected.
chocolate girl. She a model or something. She got to be a model.
Yeah, she is. She was on America's Next Top Model, I think. When that happened, I was like, oh, this is supposed to be a love story between these
But
two.
I don't feel the love.
Wasn't feeling the love, man. And that just sucks, you know. There's nothing. I feel like if two actors don't have chemistry, they just don't have chemistry. There's not a lot you can do.
Like his powers are electromagnetic.
Right.
You hear all that?
In this new modern world, especially in London, everything is electromagnetic. It affects him differently. It's like an overcharge of a battery, basically.
Right. He was suffering in a modern world.
He was suffering. He was fading away. She gets there and she's like, "I wish you to speak to me." And then he comes back and stuff like that. And she didn't want to see him, you know, hurt like that anymore. And she just said, I wish you to go back to where you was before.
No, she said, "I wish you to go wherever it is you belong."
Wherever it is you belong. Yes.
Right. And I think in that moment she realized that she was like less of his lover and more his captor, right? Because he would never say that he doesn't want to be there because, I mean, he made her wish come true. Like they were literally in love, right? So he can't say, "I don't want to be here and you're hurting me," because, you know, that's kind of what love is, you know? And I think it's supposed to be a metaphor for relationships because, you know, sometimes one person can suffer in a relationship, but if you're even though you're suffering, sometimes you just kind of go with it anyway, even though you know it's bad for you, even though it's not working out for you.
Don't I know it?
I need love.
I think we all do. So yeah, I think that's what this was. And so she takes the high road and she's like, you know, I'll let you go. I will let you be free. I see that my love is hurting you. And she even said that no one can be forced to love, right? Love is something that you give for free, willingly, not because I ordered you to love me.
I hark back to where you said that the film lets you know that if he's real or not, where they're walking up the hill and stuff like that. One of the boys over there loses their soccer ball. They're playing soccer and it gets to him and he does this freaking trick off the post to go back to them because that's how it got to him in the first place. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess he is real because they thanked him for the ball and stuff. So
yeah, I was kind of going back and forth whether or not he was real or not. And again, I think that's kind of what the movie wanted you to do. But also, I think it's not really super important whether or not this was just another one of her stories, another one of her invisible friends that she made up in her head, or maybe she really is somehow sensitive. One of the genie's stories was this little boy with the sword, and he was like somehow sensitive to the genie.
Yes,
like he could sense that he had maybe a little bit of genie in him, and so maybe Tilda Swinton is the same way, where she can sense him, she can sense, or she's just sensitive to the things around her that might be like mystical. When she's at the conference, she's the guy in the crowd. That guy actually shows up again in one of the genie's stories, which to me tells me that maybe that didn't happen, or maybe it did happen and she's, I don't know, somehow sensitive. I don't know.
I mean, the guy that was grabbing her cart was also there in the scene of Queen of Sheba.
Exactly. So everybody that she imagined before the genie came, it's he that was before the genie came, shows up in the genie stories. So to me, that seems to tell me that maybe he wasn't real, that maybe this was something in her head. But I don't know. And I don't know if it really matters.
I wasn't expecting anything going into this film. I did see that this film was about love, but the acting wasn't too bad or anything. It's kind of a shame that it didn't do too well. But I'm gonna go ahead and give this film a B-.
Yeah, I was kind of going back and forth between a B- and a C+. But I think I mostly landed on a C+. I liked the movie a lot. I think it was wonderfully weird and strange. And again, I like strange movies. I like movies that don't hold your hand and explain everything to you. But the movie can be a touch slow.
That's where my points get taken away too.
It is interesting that this is made by the same guy who made Mad Max Fury Road. Like, George Miller is one of the strangest directors, man. Like, he can swing from Babe to Mad Max to 3,000 Years of Longing. Like, what the heck? He swings so wildly. And what's even more notable about George Miller is he is old, okay? This man is an old man. Now, look, this is not a knock, but look at Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese has been making the same movie, for 1,000 years. Now, that doesn't mean this movie's bad, right? Martin Scorsese is an incredible filmmaker, but it's the same freaking movie, okay? He's not reinventing the wheel. George Miller will break himself into pieces and rebuild himself into a whole new director every single time. Young directors struggle with this. I mean, Christopher Nolan is way younger and he's making the same movie over and over again. So I just think that's very fascinating that someone like George Miller can make so many different films. As much as I like these two actors, I think the movie was still miscast because they just have no chemistry. Zero. I didn't buy them as a couple for a millisecond. I think because this movie's about love, about relationships, about losing love and regaining love and finding it again, feeling trapped in love, these kind of things. And I think these kind of metaphors are really strong in the script, but they get drowned under these two actors' lack of chemistry.
Do you recommend this film?
I do recommend it, only because it's weird. I think you should always watch a weird movie. Break out your shell. Quit watching some of the studio fare. Stop all that bull. Stop it. It's bad. Stop. Don't watch The Little Mermaid. Stop. Okay?
Stop. Get some help.
Stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, watch something different. Movies can do a lot of things. It can talk about relationships and all that stuff, but it can do it in a very creative
new way.
Yeah, a very creative way, and it can do it like via metaphor. So it's not so like, hitting you over the head, So I like that kind of stuff.
I also do recommend this film. You got Amazon Prime. Go ahead and see it. But yeah, the chemistry I had to take points off for that. I had to take points off for how slow it was.
I just wish that Idris Elba would finally get a good movie though. Like, I think Idris Elba and The Rock are like two actors who just cannot find a good role.
Idris Elba do have a film coming out called Hijack.
He's such a good actor. Like, have you seen Luther?
I've seen some episodes, yeah.
I say, watch that shit. Luther is good. That's a good show. I don't even watch much TV.
That. Watch
Luther.
that, you guys.
Watch Luther.
But more importantly, do you recommend this film? Have you seen 3,000 Years of Longing? Please get in the comments and let us know what you thought about it.
You look exhausted. Would you like to come in?
Love is
Thank you so much for clicking on this video. We just enjoy watching movies and we enjoy that you watch movies too. And we just have a conversation about them, all right? So thank you for coming. And if you are new to us, please hit that subscribe button right at the bottom.
Do it. God damn it. It's right there.
Right there. If you did like this rating of this film, please hit that thumbs up. It really does help out the channel. Or you can hit that thumbs down, whichever you choose. It is your opinion, but just remember one thing. It is mostly wrong. See you guys in another film review. Peace.
If you wanna get with me.
You probably can't use a lot of that.